Yo guys, InsaneGamer52 here, and today I'm going to go over the top 5 most important things to know when playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. Starting off at number 5 is don't forget about your Observe and Eagle Vision abilities. Observe is the same button as aiming in, and it shows you a bunch of important info like nearby loot, objectives, and quest targets. This can be extremely useful for a lot of the quests that describe the location of where something is, but don't actually give you an objective marker. Utilizing this, you can just run around the streets while holding down that button until you see a blue dot for your quest. It also works when trying to find the lost pages at temples or daishos at castles, which is a huge help. When looking for these, they will show up as a white dot, and the daisho will get his helmet icon when you get close enough. And when you're trying to clear 5 daishos, or even having a lot of combat, you may be looking to refill your rations. Using the Eagle Eye ability helps with this, since they will show up as these white boxes through the walls that you can just run up to. Searching for these objectives can be very tedious sometimes, so taking advantage of the in-game systems can be extremely helpful. Tip number 4 is stick to the roads. There are a lot of objectives that will take you up into the mountains or through dense forests. When traversing this terrain, you may want to take the most direct path possible, but in my experience, that actually ends up taking longer. Your mount can easily get stuck in these dense forests and doesn't deal with rocks and other obstacles very well at all. This ends up making you either slow down to walking speed or even stopping to maneuver around objects. It may seem counterintuitive at first, but staying on paths that let you gallop the whole time end up being faster and much less frustrating. So when you're trying to go to a far objective, I recommend sticking to the roads and open fields instead of trying to force your way through some thick forests. Tip number 3 is use stealth to your advantage. Many of the castles and hostile locations in this game end up absolutely swarming you with enemies once you're detected. Taking advantage of rooftops and bushes to stay concealed helps you pick off enemies one by one and really thin out their numbers. It can also be a great way to disengage enemies after you get caught. Getting an assassination on an enemy with lots of health segments that can survive the hit will often also get you surrounded by other forces. I found it helpful to take a hit and run approach in times like this, where you assassinate them, then hop up on a rooftop or in a bush around the corner. This will take the enemy off alert and let you assassinate them a second time, which should be able to kill pretty much any large target. It also helps you thin out enemy numbers even more by picking off regular enemies that walk by. And we all know that the less enemies you have to deal with at once, the better. Using stealth to your advantage can be an absolute game changer for many situations, especially when you start getting creative. Tip number 2 is you want to hoard your resources in the early game for when you'll need them later on. Whenever you see a big group of loot while using that Observe ability, make sure to grab it. This happens a lot when clearing out castles and the red diamond locations on the map, since there are often storehouses and other good loot collections. You don't need to go overboard like getting every individual chest while doing quests, but if you see a group of at least 3, they're worth going for. Constructing and upgrading all the buildings in your hideout can give you really good bonuses like extra scouts and increased healing from rations. So staying stocked up on crops, wood, and minerals from both the individual loot and the stockpile that scouts can bring back will keep your base continuously expanding. You also want to dismantle your equipment at the forge instead of selling it to vendors. Money should never be an issue, but crafting materials will become very helpful later on. It may not seem like it in the beginning, but upgrading your gear gets expensive once it starts getting to higher levels. You definitely want to keep your gear within a couple levels of the player, so your 2 options are either upgrading it at the forge or replacing it with new loot that you find. When you start getting legendary loot, it's much more beneficial to keep leveling it up. This can definitely eat into your crafting resources once you hit around level 15 to 20, so having a large reserve from the early game can be extremely beneficial. To help get good loot that is worth upgrading, my number 1 tip is you definitely want to do side objectives. Stuff like side quests and completing castles can give you great XP, legendary weapons and armor, knowledge points, and mastery points. Legendary equipment comes with better stats, guaranteed engravings, and has higher scaling than all other rarities. Once you get a good set of legendary equipment, it's very worth it to continue upgrading since they usually have the best stats in the game and unique engraving effects. This is why you really want to hoard those resources from the last tip so that you hopefully never run out and can continue upgrading your gear every time you level up. Knowledge points and mastery points help keep you gaining new skills, which are always helpful to deal with the ever-changing situations that you find yourself in. Exploring every question mark on your way to an objective can help keep you powered up with good gear and abilities while still continuing through the story. I've played over 20 hours in the last 2 days, so feel like I have a pretty good grasp on this game, at least in the early and middle levels. I don't claim to know everything though, so let me know your top tips in the comment section down below. If you found this guide helpful, let me know by dropping a thumbs up. And feel free to subscribe for more in-depth guides in the future.